Is Tony Stark doing okay? Given the state of comic book prices, his wallet probably isn't. Welcome to the Newest Mutants. I'm Laz, I read comic books so you don't have to, and today we continue to follow the Fall of X storyline, and we're on to Invincible Iron Man number 9. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this comic, let's first take a look at the cover. Alright, first proof that I own it. Here's another picture right here. What we have is this great shot of the War Machine, either becoming invisible or re-visible, or maybe he's on a bad Zoom call, but, considering the state of James Rhodes, it could be the latter. Very cool cover by artist Kale New. Check it out. Keep looking at it. It's awesome. Look at it. And speaking of artists, let's give credit where credit is due. Our writer for this issue is Jerry Duggan. Artist Juan Frigeri. Colorist is Brian Valenza. We have VC's Joe Caramagna. He's our letterer. And as always, our esteemed editor-in-chief, the one, the only CB Cebulski. We suspect he's actually a supervillain, but that's a story for another time. Let's get Stark raving mad. When we last left Tony, he was at the mercy of Fei Long. If Fei Long were any more of a threat, Tony might have had to call a pizza delivery in to distract him, but instead he just called his bluff. And he told Fei Long, if you kill me in the streets, the Avengers would likely avenge him faster than Mystique could shapeshift into Rebecca Romaine. And it worked. Fei Long backs down, and at the same time, Captain America shows up. Tony tells him to go away. He doesn't want to be seen with his friends. He wants Fei Long to think that Fei Long has won. Tony retreats to the sewers, and we find his Mark 70 armor standing at attention. It is, of course, cocooning Emma Frost, the White Queen. She's not happy about being stuck in the suit. I do like Tony's little take, though, that he has on social media, where he's like, hey, you can lie online with no impunity, and that everyone with a social media account is a useful idiot. This is very good writing. Very good. During this interaction with Emma, he reveals to her what the media is saying about Krakoa, calling it a mutant massacre, but not a massacre on mutants, a massacre by mutants. Emma is absolutely distraught, and Tony shows a little bit of tenderness and attempts to comfort her with a touch, but then he kind of takes his hand back. A little awkward. Tony leaves Emma in the sewer, and he asks her to wait there until he returns from doing some business. At this point, we're going to cut over to James Rhodes, Rhodey, the War Machine. He is in prison, and he is speaking to his illustrious lawyer, the She-Hulk, a.k.a. Jennifer Walters. Rhodes has been roughed up a bit in prison, and Jen kind of knows what's happening. She knows the score. She threatens the warden and demands that Rhodes is kept safe. The warden laughs her off. She'll be in touch. Tony and She-Hulk are now on the phone together, having a conversation. Jennifer is updating Tony on Rhodes' situation, and that, Fei Long is having him attacked in prison. This is all while Tony is working on his suit, and he kind of fashions a ring type of object from parts of the suit, and then he continues to work stripping the Mark 70 armor of all the tech before he is legally obliged to pass it back to Fei Long as fulfillment of whatever deals they've made. In a pretty slick scene, Tony sends the bare bones version of the armor flying through the window of Fei Long's HQ. And then outside on the steps demands Fei Long stop his attack on Rhodes. Fei Long plays innocent, like he doesn't know what's happening. In a series of very meaningful panels, we see Tony walking past a liquor store. Tony is staring at his reflection in the window and at the bottles through that window. And it's a reminder to Tony who his worst enemy truly is. He says he won't let Fei Long have the honor of being his nemesis. I love this one. This is really good. Tony returns to Emma in the Morlock tunnels, and she's big mad. He didn't think she would still be there, and she didn't think that he would return. A quick argument ensues about whether this could have all been prevented, and Emma goes off on Tony. This actually triggers a panic attack in Stark, and he breaks down. Tony is extremely upset, mostly worried about his best friend, and that Fei Long might murder Rhodes in prison just to get back at him. And in a moment of empathy and compassion, Emma acknowledges the attack and acknowledges his pain. And in this instance, Tony does something very hard for him. He asks Emma for help. In his little voiceover monologue, he claims that those are some of the hardest words he has ever said. So I have to roll it back a bit here. In previous takes from the episode on Invincible Iron Man number 8, I was concerned about the anti-mutant power collar that was put on Emma. I never saw it get removed, but apparently it is no longer on her. I might have missed that in a different comic. I don't know. But that being said, Emma uses her powers to go into Tony's mind and send him to a happy place. This happy place is his California hangar bay full of Iron Man armor. This actually calms Tony down from his panic attack, and he starts thinking. He dedicates himself to defeating Fei Long and stopping the Stark Sentinels, and it looks like the Frost-Stark alliance is in full swing now. I really dig the framing on this particular page. It's really good, and it kind of sets up the future nuptials, if you will, between Stark and Frost. Out of Tony's mind and back into the sewer, Stark removes the ring he crafted earlier. It's a psi shield that will protect Emma from the Sentinels. It's here that Stark convinces Emma to go incognito as his assistant, Hazel Kendall. With Emma disguised and Stark dressed like he raided James Bond's closet, they head to the Hellfire Club, essentially to hide in plain sight. This is where we get our first formal introduction to the new White King, Wilson Fisk. Talk about an upgrade from Kingpin to King. We'll find out more when I talk about X-Men 26 in a future episode, but that's the book. That's how it ends. And welcome to the part of the episode where I like to thank you, yes, you specifically out there, for making it this far. Today's question: how do you think the Kingpin Wilson Fisk will be as the new White King of the Hellfire Club? In this Iron Man run, we're getting characters like Fisk and Tony Stark who are not often involved in mutant politics and storylines, but now they are knee-deep in the muck. So how do we like it? Is this new status quo going to be good for long-term development? We've already seen Shaw get run out of the Hellfire Club, so at this point it seems like Fisk has all the power. Where will this lead? I am curious, so please put your thoughts in a comment. And while you're there, hit that like or subscribe button if you have not already. I would appreciate it. That would be awesome. And with that, let us get back to the show. That was my Wolverine clause. Never mind. And it is time for my big takeaways from this book. Number 3, Wilson Fisk is the White King, and I'm here for it. Look, we'll learn more about this situation in an upcoming episode, but it is a cool development and likely to change the Hellfire Club for a long time moving forward. As the Marvel status quo changes, we have to always ask, are these good changes? And in this case, it is a good change, and it's an interesting change. Number 2, how will Fei Long retaliate against Stark? Tony seems to have at least gotten a slap in at Fei Long by crashing the gutted Mark 70 armor through his front door, but Fei Long is still holding most of the cards with his control over Stark's businesses and his ownership over the Iron Man tech. If the two are going to go blow for blow, we're probably going to see him strike back sooner rather than later. How is he going to do it? That's what I'm wondering. And my number one takeaway from this issue, we saw that ring. When will Tony propose? My guess is probably in X-Men 26. It's not a guess, I know the truth. But we'll get there. The Frost-Stark interactions have been one of the best developments so far in the Fall of X storyline. So I really want to see this marriage happen. Let's go Frost-Stark. Let's do it. This issue really focused on the mental states of both Tony and Emma. Both of them had little breakdowns. Emma distraught at learning about the potential loss of mutant life, and Tony dealing with Fei Long threatening, Rhodes in prison. The trauma bonding led to an alliance, and it's going to be a very powerful alliance, hopefully for years to come. I really like Emma Frost and Tony Stark as a couple. It's cool. It's interesting. It's new. It's fresh. Good work, Marvel. All right, this is the part of the show where I show you my favorite art from the issue. Usually it's panels. Sometimes it's full pages. Let's start with number 3. This is not a panel. It's actually all of the panels on this page. You can see them right up here. What it shows is, and I'm going to show each kind of panel separately, what it shows is Emma and Tony pledging themselves to this war and forming an alliance to the deaths of their enemies. Quickly, we're going to look at each panel, but the final panel, and this is the one I like the best, it shows the two of them very close. The way the sort of the art looks, it looks like it's the bottom of a heart, right? It almost looks like a wedding photo. We know where this is going, of course. I keep teasing it, but I love it. I love this power couple. I cannot stop talking about it, obviously. The number 2 panel is where Tony is comforting Emma. It's really touching. It's very humanizing for Tony, in my opinion. Emma, who is usually a very cold person, is experiencing, mental pain and anguish and trauma on a new level, believing that mutants have been essentially wiped off the planet. Tony comforts her with a very small touch to the back, which he awkwardly takes back. There's so much just being said here. It's really kind of a beautiful set of panels. Please enjoy. Look at this art. It's very nice. Of course, my favorite panel is going to go to this panel of Tony looking at his reflection in the liquor store window. We all know the famous cover of Invincible Iron Man number 128, the demon in a bottle cover. And that's what I'm reminded of here. In the panel below it, Tony says he won't give Fei Long the honor of being his nemesis, and that's strong. It really hits hard if you know anything about addiction, alcoholism, drug abuse. And so I'm really glad that this book put that panel in there because it truly shows you how Tony perceives his foe. And that is the show. But before I go, I'm going to share a book from my own collection, as I always do. And this issue is Emma Frost number 1. You can see that I own it. Well, now we'll just look at a picture. It was released in July of 2003. It is her first solo series, and it deals with Emma's early life. But please, let us admire this amazing cover art by artist Greg Horn. Absolutely gorgeous work. All of the covers from this short 6-book series are beautiful. So if you like Emma Frost, look for those books. Just for the covers, if you want to. Absolutely gorgeous. Next time, though, we're going to find out what's been going on with Cable and Bishop in Children of the Vault, numero uno. That's number 1 in English. As always, Excelsior.